10 most important traits that you need to consider when choosing your ideal partner. I'm going to cover these today because choosing the right partner in life is so crucial to get it right, because you're going to spend the rest of your life with that person. And doing relationships long term is not easy. It's not straightforward. There are plenty of bumps. And you need to know that the person that you are doing this journey with is on your side, and that certain parts of how you're going to approach life are going to be streamlined so that you can journey together rather than keep bashing heads over and over again, which is what makes relationships or dating sometimes feel exhausting, and it drains your resources, so that when you actually have a real problem that comes up in your relationship, you don't have the bandwidth any longer to deal with it, because you've spent all your energy just navigating every day. So you want to choose a partner, and I'm going to tell you the 10 top things to look for in just a moment. You want to choose a partner that has these 10 top things, so that your everyday life in your relationship is smooth and easy. Yes, in the beginning, there's always this power struggle phase in, the first sort of 18 months, 2 years of a relationship. That is normal. And once you've got that bit figured out, then you want it to be relatively plain sailing, so that when there are stressful situations, when one of you loses your job, or when there's a death in the family, you're grieving, there's a bereavement, or you genuinely have a big fight because something happens that you're not aligned on. These things will happen. And you want to choose a partner based on these 10 top things that I'm going to tell you in just a moment. You want to choose a partner that you feel nourished by on a daily basis. You feel as though on a daily basis, this relationship is supporting you and nourishing you and helping you thrive, so that when these difficult moments come, which they will, then you have the emotional space and the physical energy to deal with these things in a way that means that you can get through them together, and you can get through them without rupturing your relationship in a way where it can't repair or it gets weaker. Ideally, when you fight, you want the relationship to get stronger afterwards, because you repair the relationship so strongly, so well, and that will be a different live stream that I'll talk about, that you come back together even stronger. It's totally natural to fight. It's totally natural to disagree. You wouldn't be two individual humans without doing that, without experiencing that. But how you come back together is absolutely key. And these top 10 things I'm about to tell you are absolutely crucial for matching on, so that when you do fight and when things are difficult, you guys are in the best possible, strongest position to navigate this and make your relationship what I call unbreakable. So let's dive in. So I've actually got a list of 20. I'm only going to share the top 10 because I don't want to overwhelm you, and it is a lot. I'm just going to share the top 10, but just to say that there are more. These are just the most important 10 that you want to be focusing on. So grab pen and paper if you haven't already. Number 1, the level of intimacy and communication that you each want and expect in a relationship. This is based around your attachment style. So for those of you who know about like anxious attachment or avoidant attachment or chaotic disordered attachment, this is what really underlies it. How much intimacy is comfortable for you, how much communication is comfortable for you. And I guess the unspoken piece here is how much space is comfortable for you as well. Number 1. Number 2, love languages. If you do not know your love language, please Google love languages, take the test. There are actually a number of tests out there. I personally love the original one, the 5 love languages. And I think the web address is literally 5lovelanguages.com. If you don't know your love language, you are missing out massively on being able to match a partner in one of the most fundamental ways that is going to help you feel loved. So love languages are the primary way that we receive and give love. They're not always the same. Sometimes the way you receive love and the way you give love is slightly different, but you want to know both of those styles about yourself, and you want to know what they are about your partner. Now, each person typically has 3 main styles. There's many more, but there's 3 that are going to be really dominant for you. Just to summarize briefly, we've got touch, we've got time, gifts, words, and actions. Now, if you are someone who is really strong on either giving or receiving actions, but your partner just wants quality time or just wants words of affirmation, you're going to be mismatching on the way that you show love and the way that they feel love. So you might be giving abundant love in the way that you know how, but if it's not the way that they want to receive it, it's not going to land. And they're going to constantly feel like you don't really love them or don't really appreciate them, or that you're not expressing your love in the right way. So these are things that you can improve in a relationship. But ideally you want to have 2 overlapping. What's quite common is touch and time. Those tend to be pretty popular with a lot of people. And then maybe the third one is different. So for example, both my partner and I have touch and time, and then after that I would be words, but his third one is actually actions. So we get to learn each other a little bit in the place where we don't match, and that's a huge part of learning how to make a relationship work long term. However, if you were to find that you didn't match at all on your love languages, that is going to be a very, very tricky relationship to navigate, and I do not recommend it. Number 3, career aspirations and your general ambition levels. This is something that is really deep within us. It's part of our survival mechanism, how to build a career, how to, become ambitious in the world that we live in, that is so sort of goal and money oriented and survival oriented. Now, some people just are not actually that ambitious, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to know what you want in a partner. It's not necessarily about matching your ambition level with their ambition level. It's about matching their ambition level with the ambition level that you want to have in a partner. So that's a really big consideration. And I've seen so many people try to change this about somebody else, and you can't, not really. This drive, this thirst for life, this hunger for sort of becoming a better version of ourselves or really exceeding in life, like it's something that you either sort of have or don't have. So I hate to say it, but if you are dating somebody and there is a massive mismatch between what you want to have in this area and what they actually have in this area, you really want to give a lot of thought about how successful that relationship is going to be long term. Now, number 4, your religious stroke spiritual beliefs. Now, many people these days don't have religious or strong spiritual beliefs, and that's fine. However, if either having or not having one or other of these beliefs is important to you, you're going to really need to make sure that your partner aligns in that, because our religious and the spiritual beliefs is actually to do with our relationship with ourselves. Yes, we externalize God, we externalize, the universal spirit or whatever you want to call it, but it's a deeply private affair, that relationship between you and something greater. And to have conflict in that area, it's very challenging to the self, to the sense of self. It really cuts into our identity, and it can feel very disrespectful, very threatening. So yeah, this is something I really encourage people when I'm supporting my one-to-one clients to choose partners. This is definitely a high consideration. Number 5, and this is something that's not actually spoken about. Often you discover this far down the line when actually you really want to discover this much sooner. This is something I encourage you to talk about in your first month of dating. What are your assumed gender roles in the relationship? Are you somebody who wants 50-50, completely equal, everything equal, decisions, money, responsibility? You want to do half the cooking, half the cleaning, all the things. And I think that's a fairly idealistic view in my experience. I don't really know any relationship that works like that. But not to say you can't both hold the ideal for that. And if you do, then brilliant, because you share values in that way. However, if one of you is expecting very traditional gender roles and the other wants a more modern approach to gender roles, this is going to be a mismatch. And again, these things are very deeply ingrained. It's what we have believed from a very young age. It's often what we've been brought up with. And it places a lot on our self-worth. If we feel that we're being assigned the wrong roles based on our gender or based on how we show up in the relationship, that is going to deeply impact how worthy you feel, how desired and valued and acknowledged you feel in the relationship. And those can really eat away slowly at the quality of a relationship if they are misaligned. Number 6, sexual pace and style. Again, this is not something that people really talk about. You tend to find out when you become intimate. And sure, that's okay. You don't necessarily need to have upfront conversations about this directly, but you do want to find out. And actually, I do encourage conversations. You can have them in your intimate space, when you're being intimate in the bedroom, or when intimacy starts arising in your relationship. But don't just assume these things, because often people go into doing what they think is expected in the bedroom, and it may not be your authentic truth. So there are also tests that you could take out there to discover your sexual style and your erotic blueprint, I think, is the other one that's called. So sexual style and erotic blueprint, 2 separate things, but take the tests for both of them or learn about both of them. They're fairly easy to distinguish. You can just read about it and identify yourself. But it's really good for you to know this about yourself. Are you somebody who likes things very sensual, very much about the senses, the touch, the smells, how the lighting is, what music's playing in the background? Are you someone who really enjoys the sexuality of sex, and you really love the physicality of it and the visual aspects of it, and the physical sensations, and maybe actually a different style would be to go into role play and sort of a bit more of the kink side of things. So there's different things to consider in that. And I would say, do have these conversations with your partner, like learn your style, go away and research it, do the 2 tests I mentioned, and then bring it to your partner and say, hey, I did this test and I discovered this about myself. Where are you on this scale? So that you can discuss that and discover, when my partner and I have done this conversation, we actually discovered things that we had not yet explored, even after being together. Like at this point, we've been together 2.5 years when we had this conversation. And there were things that even in 2.5 years we hadn't explored. And yet actually when we spoke about it, we're like, oh yeah, I'd actually really like to do that. So, the repertoire continues to expand, which is always really beautiful. Okay, number 7, children, big one. Whether or not you want children in your future, probably this will come up sooner in conversation, although not always. Sometimes it can be assumed, particularly if you're of the younger generation, if you are, in your 20s or thereabouts, you can assume, oh, of course they want kids, or, of course that will happen in time, where actually don't make any assumptions, because depending on how somebody's been brought up and things they believe about children, about parenting, they may not actually want kids. Or if you're in an older generation like me and some of the women that I tend to work with, people may already have kids, or they may have gone their whole life not having kids but really still want that. So these conversations do really matter, because whether or not if you really want kids and you're in a relationship that doesn't allow you room for that, you're going to have to sacrifice a huge, huge part of your desire to stay in that relationship. And that's going to breed resentment and frustration and irritation and mistrust and all negative things that will over time eat away and destroy your relationship. Okay, number 8, family, friend, family and friend time values. So what I mean by this is how much time you want to prioritize spending with friends and family. And each one of us is different for this. For some people, spending time with family is huge, and for others, it's not even really on the radar. And some people really prioritize friend space. Others, again, like it's just less important in their world. So discuss what's important for you and let the other person know, hey, this really matters to me. It really matters that I get every weekend with my friend, or, every second Thursday with my friend. Or it really matters that I see my family once a month. Whatever those things are, let it be known, be honest, be upfront, because you want your partner to support you in that. Number 9, downtime values. Now, a lot of people place so much emphasis on things like hobbies and interests. I don't do that. I don't actually recommend that at all, because hobbies and interests, they come and go. They are transient in some way. There's been phases in my life where I was really into rock climbing, really into running, really into going down to the gym. Other times when I've been much more into going to the pub with friends and drinking and dancing. Other times when I've really just wanted to meditate or, go to spiritual retreats. And those move depending on where I am in my life, what feels important to me and what my needs are. So they're not good indicators for long-term matches because they're transient. What is a good indicator is your downtime values. Now, what I mean by that is what feels important to you in your downtime. Is it just about rest and recuperation? Is it about having fun? Is it about connecting with nature? Is it about taking separate time because maybe you're living together and you're spending so much time together, and actually you might be the type of person that actually needs to really take some time solo to recharge? It's important that you learn this about yourself and then discuss it and bring it to your partnership, because you're going to want to support each other in this. And I would encourage this conversation to actually happen fairly early on in the relationship, because if you are mismatched, strongly mismatched in this department, over time, it is going to cause issues, because rest time is so valuable, so valuable. We're talking the opposite really of the ambition part that I mentioned as point 3 here. The rest time is so important because that's valuable time for you to be with yourself, to nourish yourself, to recuperate, to replenish, to recharge yourself for the world so that you can go out and be your best self. Now, if your partner really wants to do something completely different to you, you're maybe a chill, watch TV, watch a movie, just be at home on the sofa type of person, and your partner wants to go out and exercise and climb mountains and canoe and be out down the pub and super excited, then your recharge times are not going to align. Now, you can discuss that. It's not impossible to work through this, but you need to accept that the way you recharge is different, and you're going to want to spend that time actually separately, because otherwise your needs are not going to be fully met. Sure, there's times when you can overlap and you can compromise a little bit, but if you compromise all the time, your actual needs, your own needs, are not going to be met, and it's going to start to drain you, exhaust you, and you're going to feel depleted in the relationship. Whereas relationships are actually supposed to do the complete opposite. They're supposed to nourish you, replenish you, revive you, lift you up, make you feel stronger, more supported, more loved, more capable. If you're in a relationship that isn't doing those things, please leave. Really, you do need to leave. Last thing, number 10. Alcohol, drugs, smoking. So ultimately, what these things come down to is our coping mechanisms when we get stressed. We all experience stress. We cope with it in different ways. This is known as anxiety binding methods. Some of us go on our phone and, we're on the phone. We might play games. Some of us just go searching on the internet. We go researching. Others of us love to, go to TV addiction. Others of us will go to food addiction. Others will go to alcohol, drugs, smoking. It's all the same thing under the hood. It's all just a stress coping mechanism, but it can really rub people the wrong way. So it's good to notice what your partner's stress coping mechanisms are. It's also good to notice what your own coping mechanisms are, and notice how you feel about your partner's ones. I don't suggest you try to change them because it's not something that's very easily changed. Somebody can change their own if they really, really want to and desire, but it takes a lot of work. You should not be attempting to try to change your partner's stress coping mechanisms. That is a very personal thing down to them. What you want to be aiming for in your relationship is to be accepting and maybe even supportive of their coping mechanisms. We've all got them. Nobody is better than anybody else in this way. You know, I see some people that are like, oh, well, I don't do this and I don't do that. No, but you have other ways. There are other little addictions that you have. Another addiction, which I haven't named, is worrying. That's one that people who worry too much tend to think, oh, I don't have any addictions, except for the fact that you're constantly anxious and worrying and overthinking. That's a coping mechanism. So don't get judgmental about these things. Recognize that we all have them. We all live in actually quite a stress-filled society these days, and we will have ways of navigating that and managing that. And what's important for the longevity and the health of your relationship is to notice what your own are, own them, don't try to deny them. Notice what your partners are. And if it is a challenge for you, talk about it. Talk about it from a place of love and concern. Hey, I noticed that one of your coping strategies seems to be this, and it really worries me because I worry about the health implications of this. And I'm concerned for your health, and I'm concerned for, you know, the longevity of our happiness and our relationship together. Obviously, if you're with somebody who has an addiction that actually takes over their life, then that is quite a different situation. You do want to try and encourage both of you to have support for that one to be the support person for somebody who has an addiction, and the other person to receive support for their addiction. But I'm talking more low level addiction where we've all got these things. The high level addiction is really just a more extreme manifestation of what we all do. So that is my top 10 key things that you want to be focused on in terms of, does this person align for me long term? Do we have a hope for making this relationship last? And if you've managed to check all of these 10 points, then I absolutely celebrate you. You have an incredible opportunity to have a beautiful, happy, long-term relationship with this person. You will notice, however, that I have not spoken about attraction. I have not spoken about personality traits or physical traits very deliberately. They are in my top 20, but I believe these top 10 are actually far more important. Things like physical attraction can grow, particularly if you've got these top 10. Really, if you've got all of this, you have got such a solid foundation to grow from, that things like attraction can genuinely grow over time. Physical traits, they change. You know, our bodies change depending on how old we are, how much we're eating, how much we're drinking, how much we go to the gym, how much stress is in our life, how much holidays we're taking. And, you know, these are transient things. They're not lifelong fixed things. So yeah, of course you want to have like a chemistry with somebody. But in my experience as a dating and relationship coach, having supported tens of women to find lasting love, the top 10 I've just listed actually go towards creating that chemistry. It is much less about physicality and much more about soul aligned love, which are these top 10 that I've just named. So I would love to hear from you in the comments. What did you learn? What landed for you? What was like a mind blow? Like, oh my God, I didn't think about that one before. And which ones of these have you had challenges with? Please share with me in the comments. I can't wait to read your comments. And if this sparked any thoughts for you around, oh my God, I'd love to learn more about X. Tell me what X is. You know, what would you love me to do more videos on? And I look forward to reading your comments and creating more videos for you soon.